Remember Blue Box and Abandoned? Blue Box being an indie studio who's allegedly working on this, I don't know, horror game. The concept's changed so many times I don't know what it is anymore. But it's called Abandoned, and there have been Kojima conspiracy theories surrounding it because of the way Blue Box marketed this so-called game. Back in June of 2021, PlayStation Lifestyle released this article that kind of details all the interesting coincidences, the way, the developer hinted at first letter S, last letter L, which many understandably assumed Silent Hill, among many other things. This whole article kind of presents the coincidences and similarities and things that seem to potentially indicate Kojima might be involved because of the way Kojima has approached marketing in the past. But we know at this point that these conspiracy theories are not true, that Blue Box is in no way, shape, or form related to Kojima. And Kojima himself has actually recently responded for the first time about these conspiracy theories and the fact that so many people have been essentially messaging him and sending him pictures of things to be like, hey, can you confirm that you're tied to this? This is an article from Video Games Chronicle whose headline reads, Hideo Kojima breaks silence on abandoned conspiracy theories. It's really quite a nuisance, he said. This was something that he relayed in an episode of his Brain Structure podcast featuring Jeff Keighley in this particular episode. And when asked about the whole Hasan Kahraman situation, he said, users just kept sending me pictures of this Hasan. They still send me collages and deepfake images, like 20 a day. It's really quite a nuisance. And when speaking about the way he's done marketing in the past, like the Moby Dick Studios thing that essentially tried to hide the fact that this Phantom Pain project was in fact Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain, he said, when we did that Moby Dick thing, you, Jeff, were in on the whole thing. That was really fun, but people should know that I wouldn't do the same thing twice. To be fair, Kojima did do this more than once. He did it with PT, which was announced to be this indie project that didn't reveal it was actually Silent Hills until after people beat PT and solved all of its puzzles. So this is something that Kojima has done multiple times, but he claims here that future marketing strategies will be different, and then he finished off with, I've never spoken with Hasan, the game is yet to be released. I don't think there's much he can say or do at this point, but if he releases the game, people might understand, so maybe he should just hurry up and release it. Well, that seems unlikely, given that people close to Hasan Kahraman have leaked that there's really no Abandoned in the works. There's like a prologue that he's making, hoping that the sales of the prologue will fund Abandoned, but even the prologue, there's no real progress report on that. People are getting the sense that this game's just not happening. Now, a big part of why these conspiracy theories started in the first place was because of the way Hasan Kahraman marketed Abandoned, and yet Hasan Kahraman has the audacity to come out and pretend like it's fans' fault for causing Kojima nuisance, when Hasan himself was a major contributor to this. He was the one who stoked the flames, who lit the fire in the first place. He tweeted, the conspiracies have been a burden and not cool for both fans as well as everyone involved with the project. However, we're working hard to release the game and would like to thank everyone for the patience. And then through the official Blue Box Game Studios page, it was tweeted, we want to thank Kojima for addressing the conspiracies openly. It has been a burden and not cool for both fans and developers. We hope everyone can close this for good. We're working hard on Abandoned, and we would like to thank you all for your patience. There is no semblance of showing any kind of accountability for the blatant ways in which Hasan Kahraman and Blue Box Studios encourage these conspiracy theories, clearly trying to capitalize on them to bring attention to their own game. Hasan's making it seem like he has in no way contributed to this nuisance and just blaming the people who engage in the conspiracy theories, and there's still people who do, and it's unfortunate that at this point people are still conspiring when it's abundantly clear that Kojima is in no way, shape, or form involved. But for Hasan to wag the finger at everyone else and not look at himself in the mirror and not acknowledge that he had something to do with it is pretty scummy. Prominent modder Lance McDonald, who's spoken out a lot about this situation, responded to Blue Box with a series of tweets that I agree with, that I think are pretty apt. He said, LOL, nice job trying to change the narrative. Not going to mention the whole faked an entire game being in development so you could convince kids on the internet to play Rainbow Six Siege with you by telling them you'd eventually let them see the true game dev secrets issue. For anyone who isn't aware of the actual story, and he links this GameSpot article, which I'll get to soon, and then he concluded with, dude literally starts and flames a conspiracy theory that ends up causing annoyance for Kojima and then when Kojima expresses annoyance at him, tries to redirect it back at the fans. Absolute moron. Pretty much what he's doing, acting like, Kojima's allying with Blue Box by coming out and saying that the conspiracy theories have been a nuisance, when Hasan, Kahraman, and Blue Box are part of the problem. They are the ground zero of this whole issue. And sure, Hasan and Blue Box did release videos where they tried to tell people, guys, there is no conspiracy theory here, we have no involvement with Konami or Kojima. But then shortly after, they released an image like these that show a blurry man with an eye patch reminiscent of Big Boss and a logo that uses Metal Gear's font, which further stoked the flames of Kojima conspiracy theories. And because Kojima does have a history of giving intentionally misleading answers as to not give away the whole ARG that he's playing with some of the marketing of his games, plenty of people assumed that when Hasan, Kahraman, and Blue Box came out saying, oh, we have no relations to these entities, that they may very well be lying and that this may be the next phase of whatever ARG may be going on here, which was no official Kojima ARG at all. Again, this was just Hasan, Kahraman leaning into the conspiratorial aspect of the Kojima fan base. And while there's a part of me that wants to give Hasan, Kahraman, and Blue Box the benefit of the doubt that their intentions were honest even if their execution was completely botched, there's no way to trust them after an investigative report from news outlet GameSpot exposed Hasan, Kahraman for misleading fans, soliciting business deals in a toxic chat room, and more. I covered this story extensively in a video titled Blue Box Abandoned Report Accuses Hasan, Kahraman of Lies, Manipulation, Exploitation, and Toxicity. So check that out for those who are curious. It's a pretty long video, though. If you want the summary, I've highlighted the key bits from this article that you need to know about. There is no meaningful evidence that Abandon exists in any real way, though there is a long trail of dubious business deals, uninspiring leaks, and a chat room full of fans, including at least one child who's 12 years old, where the game's lead developer has misled a captive audience for months, despite once being planned to release on PlayStation 5 in the fall of 2021. Several people close to Kahraman tell GameSpot that there is no game. He has privately admitted Abandon is on hold, and he first needs to fund its development with a playable prologue, which our sources indicate he doesn't seem to be in a hurry to create. Interviews with more than a dozen people who have had close contact with Kahraman since September of 2021 have detailed a picture of a game in disarray and a developer who promises a lot, including paid work for fans, but delivers very little. By overtly leaning into the Silent Hill speculation, Kahraman reignited the theory that there was more to this game the players were initially led to believe. And then here is the tweet in question that had Silent Hill fans in particular excited about the possibility that Kojima might return to Silent Hill, which isn't the case at all. The article highlights how Hasan, Kahraman seemed to bend the direction of his game and its concept to retrofit what fans were saying. When they thought it was Silent Hill, he released a brief teaser in the game's strange, almost featureless standalone PlayStation 5 app that included music very much like that of Silent Hill's longtime composer, Akira Yamaoka. Referring to this dumb teaser here of just a wooden floor through which a character model walks through, this was something that Hasan, Kahraman hyped up quite a bit. He said it's going to be mind-blowing and all these things, and had people download a 6GB PlayStation 5 real-time experience app only to show basically nothing. But then he released that blurry image of the man with the eye patch that had fans think maybe this is more Metal Gear related. When the fans thought he was teasing a Metal Gear Solid project, he reworked the horror story centered on a cult to instead focus on a fourth wall breaking AI program and secret government cover-ups. There's no solid vision here. The guy doesn't even know what the game is about, what the story is about, and is changing it on a whim based on what conspiracy theories are saying. The article continues, there are many things still mysterious about Blue Box, such as who else is on the team. Kahraman has said roughly 50 people, including outsourcing studios, are working on Abandoned. The Dutch Chamber of Commerce confirmed with GameSpot that Blue Box was founded in 2015 with 10 employees, but no updates since. GameSpot then breaks down Hasan's behavior in group chats. Much of what GameSpot has learned recently about the developer comes from those with knowledge of a private and very exclusive online group chat room. Sources say that since last fall, this has been a space where Kahraman would share game material such as screenshots, animations, and even a page of the game's script. The group's original iteration was composed of roughly a dozen fans from one of the Discord servers that sprang up to study the mystery surrounding the game. Kahraman handpicked who to invite based on who he researched, he told the group. Those in the group chat were often sworn to secrecy. Some were even made to sign vague NDAs, of which GameSpot obtained a copy. According to sources, Kahraman sought agreeable fan, so he wanted an echo chamber, and when some members of the group would challenge him on his empty promises and discrepancies between public and private comments, he would kick them out or make a new, sometimes smaller group with only new and or still agreeable fans. All he wants are yes men who will go along with whatever goose chase he intends to drag them on. The group has gone through roughly half a dozen iterations, pulling in various fans from different social media platforms. For a while, some members stuck around because they still believed in the project. Others simply liked the exclusive access. Those with knowledge of the group have described Kahraman as duplicitous and prone to mood swings, often getting into heated arguments when members of the group would ask for progress updates or question his honesty, basically asking for reasonable accountability, asking reasonable questions about the progress of things that seem to be constantly delayed. He'd then profusely apologize later, sometimes attributing his outburst to the stress he was under due to the wave of fan theories. And then when things that Kahraman would share with his close-knit group would get leaked, publicly he would deny that the materials were a part of his project, which goes in line with the discrepancies between what he would share in private with his, yes men group and what he would say publicly, again, further solidifying his duplicitous nature. So he would deny that the materials were real, while in private he would seek out to identify the leakers. On one occasion, Kahraman put an audio file on his studio website that he wanted to show the group as the latest exclusive asset. The cryptic audio, which is now available on YouTube, was poorly translated into Japanese as though it was done using a program such as Google Translate. Sources felt the use of Japanese was another way Kahraman chose to lean into the Kojima theories, even as he simultaneously refuted them. The audio tied into the zero-cell plot Kahraman was pivoting to at the time, which sources say sounded like a Metal Gear copycat, which indeed it does. There's a whole Reddit thread here about how one user exposed this whole audio file situation that Hasan Kahraman presented as not a real leak and that this was fake, when there's abundant evidence and receipts that this is, in fact, an asset that Hasan Kahraman came up with. It sounds something like this for those who have not heard this audio file. So you get the idea, and yeah, the translation mentions things like Zero Cell and AI simulation. Zero Cell just sounds like an amalgam of Major Zero or CIPHER and Dead Cell, the group from Metal Gear Solid 2, and AI simulation and all these things. That's very much a Metal Gear-centric concept. And then leaning into the Japanese language, all this combined makes it seem like Hasan Kahraman is trying to essentially make like a Kojima fan fiction, and he was also trying to market his game like Kojima through cryptic messages and the like, but all he did was stoke the flames of Kojima conspiracy theories that are completely false and continue to double down on stoking those flames. Which is why this Reddit user who exposed the audio file said that I'm 100% convinced he was riding the hype on purpose and he knew exactly what he was doing. He tried to capitalize on the Kojima and Silent Hill fan base. When this audio file leaked, Kahraman publicly claimed his website was hacked and that he didn't know it was even there. Messages obtained by GameSpot show Kahraman saying he wanted to find out who leaked it to the Redditor, who ultimately shared it widely. A source said this display of blatant dishonesty made things awkward in the group, where in private everyone knew that this audio file was legit, but in public, playing the victim and pretending like he had nothing to do with anything, he did nothing wrong. The article continues, Kahraman would speak of potential business partners as scammers, including Noir Studio, an established team he once planned to commission for artwork on the game. According to sources, Kahraman used similar sentiments to describe various producers, including Summer Games Fest's Jeff Keighley and the team behind Games Radar's Future Game Show. Whenever one of the game's scheduled showings was delayed, which happened several times in the last year, sources say he was quick to place blame elsewhere when it was Hasan Kahraman who was unable to meet the deadlines to be able to show his game on these various events. As for aforementioned strange deals with fans, at one point he asked one of the fans to help store some of the game's eventual physical copies in the US to prevent Kahraman from needing to find a storage facility by traveling from the Netherlands to the US himself, offering to pay the fan $1,500. There's actually a whole message thread here that proves this is legitimate. For all the claims that Hasan Kahraman makes about how much fake stuff there's out there about what really happened, the only one who isn't showing receipts is him. The investigative reports have shown receipts to highlight that the claims that Hasan Kahraman has been duplicitous all that stuff's pretty real, or at the very least evidence seems to be leaning that way right now. Here we have more details about how Hasan Kahraman curated who was allowed in his little close-knit group in the group chat. What began as a place for eager fans to socialize with the developer of a game that was in the spotlight had become more like a pledge of allegiance and secrecy to someone who conducts themselves in a questionable manner. Sources say members felt like they were meant to support the game and praise Kahraman in between rounds of Rainbow Six Siege with him, a game he frequently invited some of them to play deep into the night, or they could get out. Just a very strange situation, almost cultish, which is ironic given that one of the concepts of Abandoned story apparently has to do with a cult. But it's like he wants to have a cult where people just give him praise and just follow his lead no matter what, don't question him, and also apparently he needs Rainbow Six Siege companions. GameSpot even procured a copy of the NDA, which does not have legal language, so this may not even be legally binding. GameSpot then talks about a trove of material shared by Kahraman to the group chat over the course of several months, and how they found their way to places like Twitter and Reddit. That's when the big leaks happened. For those who are interested in these leaks, in the description below you'll find links to this Reddit thread called Abandoned Leak, as well as this one called Another Abandoned Leak Has Occurred, this time with more screenshots and evidence of a fake Silent Hill 5 logo for the game. Among the links is this Imager page that shows some of the leaked materials, including screenshots of, I guess, like a pre-alpha version of whatever is being worked on, and scrolling down, one of the things you'll find is this Silent Hill 5 mock-up, and if that doesn't tell you that Hasan Kahraman was intentionally leaning into the conspiracy theories to stoke the flames and to bring more eyes to his project, I don't know what does. Right here we have a portion of the script that is awfully written and has things like zero cell in it, further confirming that the leaked audio file that Hasan Kahraman claimed was fake and had nothing to do with Abandoned. Scrolling further down you'll find things like these. I mean, the aesthetic of the logo is very reminiscent of Death Stranding, and I mean, it's all so very much like a Kojima fan doing essentially like a fan servicey fan fiction type of thing, but going too far with it to the point of deception. There are images of VGIN Gaming News speaking out about how they believe Hasan Kahraman is lying or misleading and intentionally leaning into these conspiracy theories and bad faith, so on and so forth. Yeah, these leaks are as legitimate as they can get. But Hasan Kahraman continues to lie and insist that the Japanese audio message is fake. He responded to the leaked script by saying, I see, this is not from Abandoned, but the comments are funny, not gonna lie. As GameSpot reports, he would say one thing in private, and then publicly he'd say something else, and eventually people in the chat group got fed up with his lies, which is why they began leaking stuff to prove that Hasan Kahraman was approaching marketing in bad faith, essentially showing proof that Hasan Kahraman is lying anytime he says, oh, that leak is fake and that leak is fake. Trust me when I tell you that the actual game is so much better, it's looking so good, when there's really nothing in the works, at least nothing that he's been able to prove. Eventually, people tried to convince Kahraman that the jig's up, that he should just essentially come clean, is what he was told, but instead, he decided to continue to deny that the assets were from Abandoned, and then he released, jointly with a YouTuber, Lance McDonald, who is the prominent modder that I highlighted before, who had been following the story. Shortly after publishing the statement on Kahraman's behalf, the YouTuber deleted this tweet and said he no longer had faith in Kahraman's version of events. Referring to this Lance McDonald tweet where he posted this statement from Kahraman, and in this message, the narrative shifted from, oh, these are not real assets, to, oh, these are assets, but just taken out of context, just kind of randomly put out there, that were not intended to be in the final game and all these things. But eventually, Lance McDonald decided to delete that tweet and said, you're going to find out why I deleted that statement from Hasan about Abandoned leaks really soon, and you'll understand why I don't want my name around this when that shitstorm goes down. What he was referring to was this GameSpot investigative report that exposed Hasan Kahraman as someone who's been engaging duplicitously, even with those who try to give him the benefit of the doubt and try to give him a platform to express some semblance of truth that he instead exploited to get more lies out there. And the last few paragraphs talk about all of the promises that never went fulfilled, all of the times he's told his curated group chat that I'm gonna have something to show in X amount of days or weeks, only for nothing to happen. Media outlets who were told, oh, I have something to show, I will share with you soon, only for Kahraman to have nothing ready. I had a similar experience where Kahraman reached out to me privately and said, hey, do you want to take a look at the game? I said, sure, show me something, that'd be great. And then I never heard back. Apparently at one point, GameSpot was told that a multiplayer beta for Abandoned was on the way. That never instantiated. And according to sources that GameSpot spoke to, the concept of the game and the story continues to change from cult horror to action game and back to a new vampire concept that one source said sounded like a Resident Evil ripoff. There doesn't seem to be any sort of original vision here. It all seems like a fanfiction ripoff of already existing IPs. Apparently right now the game's back to telling a story about a cult, but it seems to not matter. Those who spoke to GameSpot say that he never appears to be working on the game or its prologue. Since last fall, he was so often been chatting with the group or playing Rainbow Six Siege straight through the night that those close to the situation feel the time for meaningful progress doesn't seem available. They expect Abandoned to end up like the last several games announced by Blue Box, discarded after little progress and without much more than a revealed trailer. So yeah, keep all of that in mind when you read Hasan, Kahraman, and Blue Box's recent tweets where they say that they're working hard to release the game. I'm the kind of person who tends to want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but given Hasan's recent behavior and recent reports surrounding Hasan Kahraman and his duplicitous nature, it's just really difficult to do so. Right here, Blue Box says, we're working hard on Abandoned, but I thought Abandoned wasn't in development and that it was the prologue that they're gonna get out first before shipping Abandoned. And it pisses me off that he's once again trying to change the narrative and pretend like he had nothing to do with why Kojima's facing so much nuisance, acting like he's also part of the victimized group here, as if he wasn't the one who instigated this whole situation, regardless of whether it was intentional or not. Though investigative reports and evidence seem to point to Hasan Kahraman intentionally leaning into the conspiracy theories. More and more it feels like Abandoned will ultimately end up being added to this list, showing all of the times that Blue Box has ironically abandoned previous projects, myriad times in which they announced the project only to go dark when the going got tough and then for the game to eventually be canceled or never release. Just so many failed projects that never ended up going anywhere. Abandoned just seems like history repeating itself. But I suppose only time will tell how all of this plays out, whether Hasan Kahraman is just grandstanding here and we'll never hear from him again, or whether we'll see something come out and whether it'll fulfill its high ambitions and promises, or whether it'll fall by the wayside as a project that might further prove that at best he is way in over his head and at worst he is dragging people by the nose. But that's just one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Kojima's response to this whole Abandoned, Blue Box, Hasan Kahraman situation. What a nuisance it's been for him and the way Hasan Kahraman has responded. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.